Okay, let me get straight to the point. Trump is back in the Middle East, shaking hands with world leaders. But he skipped Israel. Why? This move has left a lot of Israelis confused. But I'm here to give you some perspective on why this might be happening. Also, I'll talk about what the Israelis feel about it, what might be the real reason behind it, and what could this mean for Israel. So stick around because this is about much more than who's on Trump's travel itinerary. Shalom from Israel. I'm Hananya Naftali with the latest update from the Middle East. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more insights like this one. All right, here's the situation. Trump is right now in the Middle East, visiting and meeting with leaders in Saudi Arabia and Qatar. He even sat down with Syria's new president, Ahmed al-Shara, the same guy who just a few months ago had a $10 million bounty on his head for terrorism. His trip did not include Israel. And I'm sure that most of you who are watching this are also wondering, why did he skip Israel? The left is weaponizing this to say that Biden was a better friend of Israel, which is a ridiculous thing to say, especially, Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem, recognized the Golan Heights as part of Israel. He withdrew from the disastrous Iran deal. Look, but with that being said, the right in Israel, the conservatives in Israel, they're eagerly waiting to see what is Trump's next move. But yes, of course, the majority of Israelis are confused by this. But then again, let's not forget that Prime Minister Netanyahu has met Trump twice in the White House just recently. President Trump gave Israel's Prime Minister Netanyahu the honor of being the first world leader, the first guest at the White House. So why wouldn't Trump drop by here while he's already in the neighborhood? But before we jump to conclusions, of course, and before I actually give you the analysis, let's take a step back and think this through. Look, I'm sure that President Trump meeting the president of Syria, a former terrorist, is not because he thinks he's a great guy. I highly doubt that. But we also need to acknowledge that Syria has been a thorn in the side of peace for decades. It's been Iran's playground to base itself militarily on Israel's borders. For many years, leaders have tried to solve the Middle East conflict, this ancient conflict, through the same old tactics: isolating rogue regimes, sanctioning hostile governments, and sticking to well-worn diplomatic scripts. Yet the region remains a volatile mix of alliances, rivalries, and shifting loyalties. Maybe Trump's thinking is different. Instead of labeling Syria as a permanent enemy, he's attempting something unconventional by engaging directly. It's risky, that's true, but maybe he believes that by bringing Syria into the conversation, he can chip away at Iran's influence and encourage a new dynamic, one where even long-term foes start looking at peace differently. And look, there's evidence to back this theory. Again, it's theory. Because actually, during his meeting today with Syria's new president, Trump chose to explicitly urge him to sign the Abraham Accords and normalize relations with Israel. Trump didn't shy away from telling the Syrian president that this was a historic opportunity for Syria to change its trajectory. And surprisingly, actually, the Syrian president didn't dismiss the idea. In fact, he acknowledged that normalization with Israel could be a possibility once Syria is straightened out. So this is actually a big statement coming from a country that has been hostile toward Israel for decades. Keep in mind, the Assad family, they controlled Syria for decades. So now with him being in the picture, look, we don't know his future. We know his past, and it's a really bad one. But I think that Trump meeting him shows that Trump is not just meeting with Syria for a photo op. He's clearly pushing for a major shift in regional politics, even if it means sitting down with a controversial leader. And the Syrian president, during actually his visit to France last week, confirmed that Syria is engaging in indirect talks with Israel. So it's not just Trump that sure, he actually met the guy, but Israel is engaged in indirect talks with the same guy, basically. Look, I just have to say, with everything that's being said, it's just crazy, because just up to 3 months ago, he had a $10 million bounty on his head, like I told you guys. So Trump meeting him is bold, is very Trump. It's very controversial, no doubt about that. But if Trump is trying to win over the Arab world, especially countries that have historically opposed Israel, maybe this is his way of saying, if I can get Syria on board, the rest will follow, and it will be good for Israel. Because, Israel has never sought conflict, has always extended its hand for peace. And in order to make peace, you have to be bold. Look, the reality right now in the Middle East, and we have to take that into consideration when we talk about Trump's visit, is that Iran is desperate to have allies in the Middle East. They had Lebanon, it's gone. They had Assad, he's gone. They're only left with the Houthis in Yemen, some militias in Iraq, and they're working really hard to get Syria on their side. So I think that Trump sees that, and that's why it's urgent for him to solve it as part of stopping Iran becoming nuclear. Because I believe that he understands that Iran becoming nuclear, it's not just a problem for Israel, it's a problem for America first and foremost, because before they chant death to Israel, they chant death to America. So they have a problem with America, whether Americans like it or not. They don't believe in the existence of America as much as they don't believe in the existence of Israel. Look, think about it. The Middle East is a complex chessboard. If Trump is trying to get the Arab world on board with normalizing ties with Israel, then he has to talk to players who have historically been hostile. Syria has been an obstacle to peace for so long. So if Trump can find a way to shift that dynamic, it could be a breakthrough. Is it worth it? That's where the real debate lies, on whether he can trust a former terrorist who now wears a suit. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about it? Look, sometimes leadership means making uncomfortable choices. Diplomacy is not about making friends, it's about securing results. And if Trump's endgame is peace, which I believe it is, then engaging Syria, as bitter as it sounds, might just be the unexpected move needed to unlock something bigger. Look, you guys know that I was born and raised in Israel. I live in Israel today, as I did my whole life. And one thing I've learned living here in Israel is that nothing in the Middle East is simple. The Arab states are watching Trump's every move. If his goal is to show that the US can build bridges, even with former enemies, that could set the stage for other Arab nations to feel more comfortable normalizing relations with Israel. So, of course, what we see, and again, it's all theory, but what we could see is laying the foundation for potential results. And that's why it's risky, because usually politicians, they love to show results immediately, there and now. But this looks like a move that might yield results in the future and not potentially now. But I know that a lot of people here feel uneasy seeing the events in the Middle East, because it's possible that Trump is trying to break the cycle of hostility. Like I said, Syria has been aligned with Iran. And if Trump can loosen that grip, it could be strategically significant, even if he's skipping the visit to Israel, which I will talk about. But the point is that when looking at Syria, we need to look at the bigger picture, because if we look at things as they are, it looks very weird. A weird move to meet and get pictures with him. But when you zoom out, it can give a better idea. Look, in the Middle East, every handshake has a purpose. It's not always about liking each other. Sometimes it's about shifting alliances and creating new realities. But then, what about Israel? What about not coming here? Of course, it's something that Israelis would have loved to see. It could have been amazing for President Trump to make a stop here and visit America's greatest ally. But here's the thing. Trump said that building ties with these countries is ultimately good for Israel. He's trying to create a coalition that can stand up against Iran and potentially stabilize the region. I don't think that Trump is abandoning Israel. I think he's just trying to balance the scales, but only time will tell. Maybe it's about making Arab states realize that peace is the new norm. But of course, you can't say that Trump is against Israel. He has been a very pro-Israel president in his first term, and he just begun his second term. So Israel might not be the center of this trip, but that doesn't mean that it's been forgotten. Now, while Trump is busy in the Gulf, Israel is dealing with some new serious security issues. The Houthis, they have launched ballistic missiles towards Jerusalem, towards Israel, 3 times in 2 days during Trump's visit in the Middle East. I think that they're trying to show Trump who's the boss. And of course, it's not the Houthis, it's Iran. So why are the Houthis suddenly so aggressive? The answer is simple. Iran. They're trying to show that they can hit Israel even when Trump is in a region. That they are a player that he needs to consider. It's like they're trying to make a statement that they don't care who's visiting or what deals are being discussed. But look, what's interesting is actually that the IDF, Israel has always responded to aggression, and the IDF has been issuing evacuation warnings to civilians in Yemen's 3 Houthi-controlled ports. Usually, the Air Force issues these warnings before an immediate strike on these locations. But for now, we haven't seen a strike. Today, there was the second time that this warning was issued. And also, Prime Minister Netanyahu urgently said, it was reported in the media, that he urgently had to run to the IDF's headquarters. But we have not seen a strike. I don't know what are the calculations here, but one thing is sure. When Israel promises, Israel acts. I don't know a country that would tolerate ballistic and hypersonic missiles fired towards them, and neither should Israel tolerate it. Real peace means security and strength. And the only way we can secure true peace is by uprooting evil. Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis, they're just proxies, but their bosses are in Tehran. The Islamic regime that seeks dominance over the Middle East, or should I say, starting with the Middle East. So bottom line, what stands behind President Trump's strategy? Maybe he's trying to get the Arab world to see the bigger picture, that peace with Israel doesn't mean losing face. Maybe he's using Syria as a way to pressure Iran, or maybe it's just a bold experiment that could either pay off or backfire. But whatever it is, we will have to see it in the long run. As I've said, we've been through enough broken promises to be skeptical. But if there's even a chance that this unconventional approach could work, we can't just dismiss it outright. Sometimes it takes a risky move to break a deadlock. And let's remember, Prime Minister Netanyahu himself said that President Trump is the best friend Israel has in the White House. So don't listen to the mainstream media, what they're telling you, that he has abandoned Israel, because he did not. And let me know, what do you think about Trump's trip? Whether this is an approach that can actually work. Let me know. Share your thoughts in the comments. I do want to hear your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube for more insights on Israel and the Middle East. And also visit the IsraelStore.com to support Israel against BDS. Shine the light of Israel. Your purchase makes a difference. Shalom